Young black boy ran toward the bikers, shouting, "They took my mother!" What the bikers did next. Jaden's small feet pounded against the gravel, his voice cracking as he sprinted toward the row of parked motorcycles. His chest burned, but he kept shouting the same words again and again, the ones that would not stop tearing out of him. "They took my mother! Please, they took her!" The bikers turned, leather vests glinting under the afternoon sun, their engines still ticking with leftover heat. Some frowned, some scoffed, thinking he was just another kid messing around. But the look in his eyes was not the look of a child causing trouble. It was fear. It was desperation. It was a boy who had run out of doors to knock on. Ryder Cole stepped forward, wiping grease from his hands, his jaw tightening when he saw Jaden's trembling fingers and dirt-streaked face. Jaden tried to speak, but breath kept breaking into sobs. He managed one more sentence that finally made them all freeze. "They framed her. They said she did something she did not do. She is all I have." The words hit harder than any punch. Maya Brooks was not just his mother. She was his world. The only person who tucked him in, worked double shifts, came home exhausted, but still smiling for him. And now she was gone, taken by someone with power, someone who expected no one to question them. Before we continue, if stories of courage, injustice, and real heroes move you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more real and powerful stories to life. Ryder's eyes narrowed slightly, the kind of look that meant he had already decided something. The engines cooled, the wind quieted, and Jaden stood there waiting for someone, anyone, to believe him. Maya Brooks had never been the kind of woman who asked for help. Ever since Jaden was born, she had learned to carry her world on her back without letting it break her. Their apartment was small, with walls thin enough to hear neighbors argue, and windows that did not seal quite right in the winter, but it was theirs. Every morning she woke before the sun, tying her hair back quietly so Jaden could sleep a little longer. She worked her first shift as a cleaner in an office building downtown, wiping fingerprints from glass doors and emptying trash bins, while business people walked past her like she did not exist. Then she rushed across town to her second job at a local diner, where the same tired smile stayed on her face even when her feet felt like they were burning. When her shift ended late at night, she came home and kissed her son on the forehead, whispering, "I am right here," even when exhaustion tugged at her bones. Jaden knew they did not have much. His clothes were usually thrifted, his birthday cake small, and sometimes dinner was just toast and soup. But he had something that felt more valuable than anything money could buy. He had a mother who looked at him like he mattered in a world that often forgot to care. She laughed with him, listened to his stories, and held his hand when storms rattled their windows. Their home, no matter how tiny, felt warm because of her. Everything changed the afternoon Maya stayed behind at the office building for an extra shift. She was mopping the hallway outside an executive conference room when she heard voices inside, low and tense. She had no interest in something that was not her business, but the door was already cracked open. On the table, she saw an open black briefcase and stacks of envelopes filled with cash. A man in a suit slid them toward another man wearing a police badge clipped to his belt. That badge was unmistakable. Detective Grant Wallace, the same officer who always visited the neighborhood claiming to keep the streets clean. His voice was calm, confident, like he believed no one would ever dare question him. Maya's mop knocked against a metal bucket. That tiny sound was enough. Wallace looked straight toward the doorway and their eyes met. In one instant, she knew she had seen something she was never meant to see. He stepped out slowly, his smile too polite to be real. "You work here, right?" he asked casually. Maya nodded, trying to keep her hands from shaking. She wanted to walk away, pretend nothing happened, just go home to her son. But Wallace had already decided what came next. 2 days later, police knocked on her apartment door. They searched her bedroom, her kitchen, Jaden's toy box. They claimed they found stolen funds in her closet, money she had never seen before in her life. The accusations came fast, the handcuffs came faster, and the neighbors stared as if they had always known something about her. Jaden's screams echoed down the hallway, begging them to stop, grabbing at her clothes while officers pulled him away. Maya kept telling them she was innocent. She kept saying she had done nothing. But Wallace stood behind them, arms crossed, a satisfied calm in his eyes. Jaden tried everything. He talked to teachers, neighbors, community workers, anyone who would listen. But no one wanted to challenge a detective with influence and a spotless public record. People avoided his eyes, whispered apologies, or told him to move on. It felt like the whole world had closed its doors. But there was one name people spoke with caution and respect. Ryder Cole, the leader of the Iron Serpents. A man with a reputation that was more complicated than the leather jacket and motorcycle suggested. Some said he used to be a lawyer who could tear apart a case with nothing but questions. Others said he walked away from that life after it cost him everything. Whatever the truth was, Jaden understood one thing clearly. If the system would not save his mother, he needed someone who knew exactly how to break it apart. Jaden did not sleep the night after his mother was taken. He sat on the edge of his bed, holding the small bracelet she always wore, trying to remember the warmth of her hand. Every voice in town had already told him the same thing. There was nothing he could do. But he remembered the motorcycles roaring through the streets on summer afternoons, the sound heavy and alive. People said the iron serpents were dangerous. People also said they did not answer to anyone. And Jaden needed someone who did not fear Detective Grant Wallace. The next morning, before the sun rose, Jaden left the apartment. His backpack bounced against his shoulders as he walked across town. The Iron Serpent's MC headquarters was an old auto workshop at the edge of the industrial district. The metal sign was rusted, one of the windows was cracked, and motorcycles were lined up out front like sleeping animals ready to wake. Jaden's feet felt heavy, but his mother's face kept pushing him forward. He stepped inside. The smell of engine oil and burnt rubber filled the air. A few bikers turned to look at him, confused to see a child standing alone in their doorway. Tattoos, leather jackets, boots. Intimidating, no doubt. But Jaden did not flinch. One of the bikers, a tall man with a braided beard, started toward him. "Kid, you lost?" Before Jaden could answer, another voice cut through the workshop. Calm, steady, older. "Let him speak." Ryder Cole stepped forward from the corner. He looked nothing like the loud stories people told about him. He was quiet, observant, his eyes sharp but tired in a way that hinted at battles no one else could see. Jaden swallowed hard. "They took my mother," he said. His voice cracked but did not break. "She did nothing wrong. They took her." The room fell silent. Ryder did not rush to comfort him. He did not kneel, pat his head, or speak softly. He simply studied him. Jaden stood straight, fists clenched, fighting not to cry. Something about that determination pulled something old inside Ryder. "What is your mother's name?" Ryder asked. "Maya Brooks." Ryder exchanged a glance with a biker named Tank, a man built like a wall. The name meant nothing to them, but the fear in Jaden's voice did. "Who took her?" Ryder asked next. "Detective Grant Wallace," Jaden said. "He said she stole money, but she did not. She would never. She saw him doing something wrong. She saw him take money from someone. And now she is in jail." Ryder did not move for a long time. He had seen this pattern before. Power protecting itself. The system bending to whoever could lean on it hardest. Memories flickered through his mind that he did not like to revisit. He had once believed the law was solid stone. Then he learned how easily it cracked when someone pushed from the right angle. Ryder motioned for Jaden to sit on a stool. Jaden sat, his legs barely reaching the floor. "I used to be a lawyer," Ryder said. "A long time ago. Before I learned that the law and justice do not always shake hands." Jaden met his eyes. "Then you know how to help her." Ryder looked at him, and for a second, he saw himself at that age. Desperate, small, but not weak. A child who had already learned that life does not hand out fairness. Ryder drew in a slow breath. "We will look into this," he said. The bikers around him straightened with purpose. This was no longer a child's problem. It was their problem now. "But listen carefully," Ryder continued. "Once we start, there is no going back. We will not be using the police. We will not be using the courts. We will find the truth ourselves. And when we find it, we will expose it so loudly that no one can bury it again." Jaden nodded. He did not fully understand what that meant, but he knew it meant they were not going to abandon him. Ryder placed a hand on the table beside him, not touching Jaden, but close enough for reassurance. "We fight for people who have no one else," he said. "And right now, that is you." The Iron Serpents did not roar engines or shout battle cries. They simply got to work, quiet, focused, determined. The system had failed Maya Brooks, so the bikers would do what the system would not. The Iron Serpents began their work quietly, the way storms begin far away before anyone hears thunder. They did not break down doors or shout threats. They watched. They listened. They followed paper trails the same way hunters follow tracks in dust. Ryder met with Jaden almost every afternoon at the workshop. Jaden would sit on a milk crate beside the workbench while the crew pretended to be discussing engines, but their low voices carried weight. Ryder never spoke to him like a child. He told him the truth, even when the truth was hard. "We are not fighting a man," Ryder said one evening, tightening a bolt on a bike that did not need fixing. "We are fighting the walls that protect him." Jaden nodded, even though his stomach felt tight every time he thought of his mother behind bars. "I just want her back." "You will get her back," Ryder said, "but courage is not loud. Sometimes it is just holding on a little longer." The investigation grew in layers. Tank and Bones staked out the City Hall parking lot. Mickey handled phones, tracing calls, cross-checking numbers Ryder remembered from his law days. Another member named Sable, who had once been an accountant, sifted through public contracts and charity funds linked to the police department. The more they looked, the more the pieces connected. Money moved in circles that made no sense unless you knew what to look for. A real estate company that never built anything. Permits approved in record time, cash deposits that never matched salaries. And every time the pattern looped back, the same two names appeared. Detective Grant Wallace and Officer Raoul Briggs. Ryder grew more certain with every file they dragged into the workshop. Wallace was not just corrupt. He was smart, careful, strategic. The kind of man who believed no one could touch him. The kind of man who laughed when people begged for justice. The Iron Serpents did not just find evidence. They built a story. Dates, locations, witnesses, security camera angles that no one had bothered to check because no one had ever dared to look behind the badge. But the deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. One night, Tank returned with bruises across his ribs. He had been followed. Someone tried to run him off the highway. He shook it off with a grin, but Ryder understood the message clearly. Wallace had noticed something shifting in the shadows. "He is getting nervous," Bones said, watching through a cracked window. "Nervous men do stupid things." Ryder looked at Jaden, who sat quietly in the corner holding a cup of water with both hands. Stupid things meant someone could get hurt. Someone innocent, someone small. Ryder moved to him. "If you ever feel unsafe, you come here. You do not walk alone. You do not talk to strangers. If anyone in a police uniform tries to speak to you, you run. Understand?" Jaden swallowed and nodded. "What about my mother?" he whispered. Ryder's voice softened. "She is holding on because she believes you are out here fighting for her. Do not let that spark go out." Meanwhile, inside the jail, Maya's world was shrinking. Days blurred into each other. The food tasted like nothing. The lights never dimmed. The guards looked through her, like she was already a memory. She sat on her bunk with her hands folded tightly, replaying everything in her mind, trying to understand how one accident, one moment of being in the wrong place, could unravel her life. Some nights she cried quietly. Some nights she whispered Jaden's name as if he could hear her through the walls. Fear crept in slowly, like cold spreading under a door. Not fear for herself, but fear of Jaden being alone out there. But Jaden did not bend. He helped organize receipts Sable printed. He circled dates on calendars. He pointed out a license plate Maya had once mentioned. He was not just watching the Iron Serpents. He was part of them now. One afternoon, Ryder found Jaden in the workshop running his fingers along a bike's chrome handlebar. "Do you ever get scared?" Jaden asked without looking up. Ryder took a long breath before answering. "I do. Fear is not the enemy. Fear just means something matters. What we do with fear decides who we become." Jaden nodded. He was trying so hard to be strong, it made Ryder feel something twist inside his chest. He saw the version of himself he had tried to bury. The boy who once believed the law would save him. The boy who learned it would not. The next break in the case came unexpectedly. A bar owner near the river recognized Raoul Briggs from a photo Mickey had shown around the neighborhood. The owner remembered Briggs meeting with a developer late at night behind the bar where no cameras reached. The Serpents checked the alley. They found a security camera across the street, pointed just enough to catch a license plate and a briefcase exchange. It was not everything, but it was enough. Enough to push Wallace into panic. He increased patrols. He questioned informants. He filed paperwork to transfer Maya to another facility. That was when Ryder knew time was running out. Once she moved, she would disappear into the system, swallowed whole. Ryder gathered the Serpents around the workshop table, maps, screenshots, a folder heavy with evidence. "We are close," he said. "But close is not enough. We need one moment that breaks the door open. One mistake from them. One card we can flip." Jaden looked at the folder. His hand was shaking a little, but he did not pull away. "What do we do now?" he asked. Ryder met his eyes. "Now," he said, "we make them show themselves." The storm was no longer distant. It was already forming overhead. Ryder did not rush. He never rushed. He believed that timing was everything. And if they stepped out even 1 second too early, Wallace would bury all evidence and walk away clean. So for days, the Iron Serpents worked quietly, like shadows that slipped through doors no one noticed. Jaden stayed close to Ryder the whole time. He watched how Ryder talked to people, how he read them without asking a single question. The club gathered bank statements, phone logs, bribe notes, and most importantly, the recording Maya had taken the night she was framed. It was still on her phone, locked within the police evidence database. The Serpents had a man who used to work IT for the city. He slipped in, retrieved it, and placed it gently in Ryder's palm like it was gold. Ryder listened to the recording in silence. Maya's voice came through first, calm, tired. Then Wallace's voice followed, low and sharp, talking about money being moved and how no one would ever connect it. And then the scuffle, the threat. The moment Maya gasped. The moment everything changed. Jaden's chest ached listening to it. Ryder's jaw tightened, but he did not say a word. He simply nodded. "This is enough," he said. He did not storm the police station. He did not gather the serpents for a fight. He sat at the old bar table inside their headquarters, opened his worn leather satchel, and pulled out something no one expected. A legal brief, typed, organized. Every piece of evidence lined in order. Jaden blinked at it. You used to do this?" Ryder gave a small, tired smile, like remembering someone he had buried long ago. "Once." The next morning, the plan snapped into motion like gears locking into place. They went straight to the district federal building. Not the local police, not the city court. Ryder knew the system. Wallace had too many friends anywhere local. But federal? That was a different board entirely. Jaden stood beside Ryder, hands shaking, heart dragging every fear he carried. He kept thinking about his mother sitting behind bars. He kept thinking about how she held him when he cried after school, how she worked late and still smiled for him, how she always believed in him even when she was exhausted. He could not lose her. Not now, not ever. Inside the building, Ryder requested an urgent review hearing. The clerk looked up at him, unimpressed, until she saw the case file, the evidence, the officer names, the money trail. Her expression changed. Not quick, slow, like ice melting. Within 2 hours, an FBI task team was moving. Not loud, not dramatic. Cold, direct. Ryder insisted that Jaden be there when it happened. "You need to see justice with your own eyes," he said. So Jaden stood across the street as the doors of the precinct flew open, and federal agents stepped inside. He held his breath so tight his ribs hurt. Minutes crawled. Then he saw them. Wallace was escorted out, hands behind his back, his face stretched in disbelief. He tried to speak. He tried to twist the story. But the agents did not even turn their heads. Briggs came next, sweating, eyes wide like a trapped animal. They did not look powerful anymore. They looked small. Ryder's voice came low beside him. "Power built on harm never lasts. It just waits for its turn to fall." Jaden swallowed hard. His chest felt too full to hold everything inside. Then came the moment. The cell door opened. Maya stepped out, arms wrapped around herself like she needed to hold her own bones together. Her eyes were scared, tired, and when she saw Jaden, they broke open with relief. Jaden ran into her arms, holding her like he would dissolve without her. She whispered into his hair, voice shaking. "I knew you would not give up on me." Jaden could hardly speak, tears running down his face. Never, not ever. Ryder turned away, giving them space. The serpents stood silent behind him, like guardians of a moment that did not belong to them but mattered to them anyway. Maya looked up at Ryder, her voice soft but steady. "Thank you." Ryder nodded once. "Make sure he grows up knowing what strength looks like. He has seen enough of fear." For the first time in weeks, the world did not feel like it was about to break. But the story was not finished yet. Because justice may have started, but consequences were still coming. And some enemies do not fall quietly. The days after Wallace and Briggs were arrested felt unreal, like the world had finally taken a breath after holding it for too long. Maya was cleared of all charges. The court apologized, but apologies could not return the weeks she spent behind bars. Still, when the judge announced that Maya was innocent and that everything she went through was a result of corruption and abuse of power, Jaden squeezed her hand tight and smiled through tears. They had survived something meant to break them. But the world did not just give her freedom. It gave her voice. A civil case followed. Evidence of emotional damage, financial harm, loss of livelihood, and the trauma she and Jaden endured was undeniable. The ruling came sooner than anyone expected. The city awarded Maya $3 million. Reporters waited outside the courthouse like hungry birds, hoping for a dramatic statement. But Maya did not shout. She did not brag. She simply wrapped her arm around Jaden and said softly, "I just want to go home." And home is where they went. But life did not return to what it was before. Maya did not want to go back to cleaning offices for pennies. She wanted something of her own. Something built from her hands, but not controlled by anyone who could take it away. So she opened Bright Nest Cleaning Services. It was not fancy in the beginning. A small office, a small sign. But the first people she hired were mothers who were fighting the same battles she once did. Mothers who needed flexible hours, fair pay, respect, and a chance to breathe. Maya looked them in the eyes and said, "You are not alone. I know what it feels like to be treated as less. Not here, not with me." Jaden helped too. He worked on the company website from his school laptop. He carried supply boxes. He answered calls. He grew more confident, braver. Like the fire inside him had been shaped, not shattered. And Ryder? He did not attend celebrations. He did not stay for interviews or thanks. One morning, Jaden stepped outside and found Ryder sitting on his motorcycle, ready to leave. No dramatic goodbye. No speeches. Jaden walked up, unsure what to say. Will we see you again? Ryder gave a small smile, the kind that said he cared more than he would ever admit. When the world turns unfair again, maybe. Then he handed Jaden something, a simple old keychain, a small metal serpent coiled in a circle. Remind yourself, Ryder said, that strength does not always look loud. The engine roared. The bike rolled away. Ryder blended back into the road like he had only ever been passing through. But the impact of what he did stayed. Maya and Jaden were no longer just survivors. They were whole again. Jaden became known around town as the boy who did not stop fighting. Teachers mentioned his courage. Neighbors whispered about what he had done. And people who once overlooked him now greeted him with respect. But none of that changed who he was. He was still the kid who missed his mother every night she was gone. He was still the son who held her hand when she came home. Fame did not matter. Their peace did. Before Ryder left, Jaden found him standing near his motorcycle, ready to continue the quiet life he preferred. The morning air was calm. No crowds, no noise, just two people who understood each other now. Jaden stepped closer and spoke in a quiet voice. Thank you for giving me my mother back. Ryder did not make promises. He did not try to act like a hero. He simply rested a hand on Jaden's shoulder for a moment and nodded once. No words were needed. Some people say justice always comes from the ones with badges and uniforms. But sometimes, justice is carried by those the world misunderstands. Sometimes the truest protection comes from the souls that have already survived fire. If this story touched your heart, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life. Thank you for watching.